Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at two other McDonald's figures. These are actually the other two that are currently out in the United States. There is actually a very large selection of these figures that so far we have not gotten here in the United States. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we do at some point, but they've shown up in like South Korea and Japan as far as like the kind of promotional preview material goes to show them what they're going to be getting. We have like an Indominus and Parasaurolophus and all kinds of stuff going on over in those areas, but unfortunately here we've only gotten 4 of the actual figures to this point, so we're going to look at the other 2 right now that are currently out, as we've already looked at Toro and Bumpy. Again, you can see that the eggs are very nice looking, beautifully detailed. They have a really nice Jurassic World silhouette there as far as the Tyrannosaurus skull, and you can see that the egg is actually really quite nicely done, and overall has a pretty decent looking paint job to it with kind of like this spotted type of a look, and each egg has a different coloration to it, and you can see that here with both of these. As you can see, this egg also has a very nice, actually I think I like this one the best as far as like the coloration goes. It looks like you could see quite a few different tones of color sort of included on this egg, so really nice looking. This is definitely, I think, my favorite egg of all of them so far. But to get your figures out, of course, all you got to do is bust the egg open, and then out they come, and you can see exactly who is inside this egg. We've got the Triceratops, so let's break the Triceratops out of this little bag right here, pull that Triceratops out, and then in this one, we have the Tyrannosaurus, and both appear to be like the exact same shade of brown almost. Actually, no, I guess the Triceratops looks a little darker, similar to the coloration on the top of the body of the Tyrannosaurus, sort of. It's like a mixture, I think, of the upper and lower color of the Tyrannosaur. But again, really nice looking figures here at first glance. I'm really overall quite impressed with these, even though they're just sort of like goofy little McDonald's toys. They do have a pretty darn nice appearance to them. I think the Tyrannosaur is a little bit off as far as a JP style like Rex goes, but the Triceratops looks fairly decent. Again, 2 really cool looking figures, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at both right now. So starting with the T-Rex here, you can see that for the most part it actually has a really smooth appearance to like the skin texture and everything. There isn't really too much going on. You can see sort of like a bumpy appearance to the legs here that does sort of insinuate some sort of skin detail, but you don't really see much of like a scaly effect or anything to the Rex. You can see a few osteoderms here and there on the Tyrannosaurus, a nicely painted eye with a yellow coloration and a black pupil, and it does gloss actually quite nicely. The teeth are fairly similar to the way Toros were painted, but this one actually has a little bit of sloppy paint to it. It looks pretty good over here on this side, but if we look over here right in the front, that's pretty sloppy right there. So the teeth are a little bit sloppier on the Rex, as far as mine anyway, in comparison to what we had seen on Toro the Carnotaurus. You can also see sort of like an osteoderm type of a look that runs down the back of the Rex, like sort of like scoots, which is not something you really see on the JP style Rex either. So I think the sculpt is a little weird as far as a Jurassic Park Rex goes, but the coloration is fairly reminiscent of the animal itself in the film, so I think that looks okay. And again, over here on this side, we do have some very awkward writing on the legs and everything of our Tyrannosaurus. You can also see some screw holes that are really terrible, look very Hasbro-like in that area. You do have some pretty nice looking little Rex hands right there. No nail paint, of course. You can't really expect something like that on McDonald's toys. The foot sculpts look okay. They're pretty decent. I do like those. And then you've got a nice little tail out here at the end, as per usual, almost Snap Squad-like with the way that tail is. And then just like the Carnotaurus, to create that kind of biting action, you pull the tail down, and then our Rex chomps down on whatever you can actually fit inside the mouth. You can see there's no real detail or anything in there at all. But I think the Rex is quite cool. He really only has 2 colors. You've got this lighter brown and a darker brown, and that's pretty much it, aside from like the teeth and eye paint. But still pretty fun. Just not my favorite. I think at this point Bumpy is my favorite. But then we also have the Triceratops, which the Triceratops is actually really quite nice. I feel like the herbivores of these McDonald's figures are much nicer than the carnivores. Again, for the most part though, we do have sort of like this very smooth skin texture for the figure, but you see a lot of kind of like skin wrinkles and skin folds on the Triceratops, which is really cool to see. But up here on the face, you don't really see too much going on as far as like scaling or anything, but it does still look really cool. You can see some skin detail going on. Really nice paint on both the beak and horns of the Triceratops. You do have a nice nostril sculpted out up there, Once again, a really nicely painted eye. Both the eyes of the Rex and this Triceratops are absolutely beautiful as far as the way that the eyes appear. It's really perfectly placed as far as like the decal I believe they used, and you can also see that the eyes both have a really nice gloss coat to them, although the Triceratops is actually quite glossy in general. But you can see some nice sculpt work up here as far as like some creasing going on in the frill. Unfortunately, you do again have screw holes, and you also have those words over here. So as far as the figures go, I think Bumpy might have been the best as far as kind of hiding those areas. You can see also back here that there is a nice spinal column as you run down the back of the Triceratops. You do have a little bit of sculpt as far as like some kind of creases back there, but not too much. Very nice little tail sculpt over here. You have some nicely sculpted out feet, no painted nails as usual, but the overall figure does look pretty nice. It's very appealing as far as like a very cool kind of cute Triceratops in Jurassic Park style sculpt goes. Unfortunately though, you don't really have much paint as it's just one solid color, not like the Rex where it did have two variations of brown. The Triceratops seems to only have one solid color. You have a little bit of detail there on the underside as well. But again, they're just McDonald's figures. They're nothing that is supposed to be super highly detailed, so they're pretty cool for what they are. And to activate the action feature, once again, we're going to push the tail, and now we have like a head rearing up action for the Triceratops. So both really cool figures. As far as the size goes for these figures, for a height for the Rex, you're looking at around the 3-inch range, or about 7.5 centimeters. And then for a length, you're looking at around the, I'd say the 3.25-inch range, somewhere around there. Actually, maybe close to 3.5 inches in that aspect as well, or about 9 centimeters for the Triceratops, about 2.5 inches, or about 6.5 centimeters, and then for a length around 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters yet again. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to these figures as well, and they are exactly the same size pretty much as the previous McDonald's figures were, so you can see they are fairly small but do have a little bit of a decent size to them. They are overall fairly impressive as far as the size department goes, but at the same time really quite small. So these McDonald's Jurassic World figures are definitely really cool, but they're not going to be the most accurate as far as like film accuracy goes, or the most detailed Jurassic World figures you're ever going to find. They're just pretty much meant to be what they're meant to be, and that's fun little extras in the Happy Meals currently at McDonald's, and they're meant for kids, so I feel like they really do cater to children quite well. The sculpts are very appealing, I think, to children because they have almost like a baby type of a look to the figures overall, and at the same time they have really cool action features that I think also would really appeal to children. So they do exactly what they're supposed to do, and that's catered to kids. But as far as like a collector's standpoint goes, I think they're also really quite cool and definitely something that I'm enjoying overall as far as these McDonald's figures go. The sculpts are fun. They're not overly detailed or anything like that. They're not highly detailed, but they are really quite fun in general. The paint jobs are also really quite nice. There's nothing special again to them. There's not really too much paint application to them, especially the Triceratops you can see is just pretty much one solid tone of color. The Rex does have 2 different tones of color, which I do quite like, but all the paint application that is applied to the figures, for the most part, aside from maybe like the teeth in the front of the Rex's mouth, is really nicely done, and there's no real sloppiness to them or anything like that, especially if you look at the Triceratops. Like, I feel like that looks really quite nice as far as the overall appearance to the figure with its paint, and the way that that kind of lighter coloration of the horns and everything plays off of that darker brown. I feel like that looks really nice, and everything is so precise and perfectly done. And the Rex as well does look really quite cool, aside from that little bit of sloppy paint in the teeth area. But having a really cool action feature, a really nice appearance, and overall just being Jurassic World figures, I do like both of these figures. So again, just like the other two, make sure you head to your local McDonald's, hit up the Happy Meal section and buy yourself a Happy Meal, or you can just buy the figures themselves, as they do cost about $2 each. So either way, I do recommend searching both of them out if you are a Jurassic World or Jurassic Park collector, as they do make a pretty cool addition to pretty much any collection. So make sure you head to your local McDonald's, pick yourself up some Happy Meal figures, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.